and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, a digital-first platform bringing you India's biggest experts across topics to share directly with you, the entrepreneur, their wisdom, their advice, as also their suggestions about how you perhaps can shape your life, how you perhaps can do things differently, and also to answer your questions directly. Today, we're talking about sustainability, all things sustainability, even as it is looked at as a buzzword of sorts. What you, the entrepreneur, should keep in mind for 2021 when it comes to social enterprises. Should you be innovating? Where should you innovate? What are the trends? What are the sectors? All of that being answered on today's masterclass. I want to introduce our panelists tonight. First up, we have Anand Deshpande, founder, chairman, and MD, Persistent Systems. Wilma Rodriguez, founder and CEO, Sahas. Shreyans Bandari, director, Heritage Girls School, and CEO, Greensoul. Let me start there then, and perhaps first ask both our entrepreneurs to very briefly talk about the businesses that you have in your what your business really does. Wilma, can I start with you?
Sure. So Sahas Zero Waste is a company, a waste management company that has transitioned from an NGO to a private limited. And today, as a private limited, we of course look at waste, but the focus is really on resource recovery. So how do you actually convert waste into resources? And our benchmark is really 96% of all waste, we believe, can be converted into resources, and that's what our benchmark is. As a business model, we look at revenues that come in from sale of waste, but more than that, revenues that come from a service fee. And that's how we make sure that we have a close focus on both environmental and social impact. So these are matrices that we constantly track, because through this business model, we are able to actually have people, the team that we have, we are able to pay minimum wages, we are able to also make sure that there is maximum resource recovery that takes place.
Okay, Shreyans, we've had you joining us previously on the Leaders of Tomorrow, but if you can introduce what Greensoul does for our audience.
Sure. So Greensoul is a footwear and apparel upcycling company. We make slippers out of old shoes and apparel, and bags and other things also. And these are all donated all across India, in across 13 states. So far, we've donated about 3.5-4 lakh slippers all across India in 13 states. Other than this, we're also doing retail of footwear, vegan footwear made of sustainable materials. So these are the two things that we do: recycling as a service, CSR, and also retail for the customers so that they can make a conscious choice of buying the right products.
Anand, you're someone who's passionate about the environment, about sustainability, and about giving back, both through your foundation as well as, through Second Orbit, where you mentor and handhold entrepreneurs. If you can very briefly talk about both these organizations and the work that you do, and then we'll take it from there.
Thanks, Ananda, for inviting me. I started out 30 years back starting Persistent Systems, which has been a IT services and software development company. And for the last few years, I have also been looking at giving back. And in that context, I set up a personal family foundation called Deyasra Foundation, where we are really focused on the middle of the pyramid, businesses that make between 5 lakhs and 1 crore, so really small, tiny businesses, and really helping these self-employed people be very successful. And then on the Second Orbit side, I run a small group where we do regular workshops and helping businesses that are at about between 5 and 10 crores to see how to scale them to 10 times their size to get them to 50 and 100 crores. And the reason for doing that is, of course, we find that in general, there are a lot of businesses that get stuck at the top of the first orbit where the founder maxes out, and there needs to be some systematic ways of how you grow the business beyond that. And the Second Orbit helps you figure. So we have figured out a set of things that you can do to help you move from the first orbit to the second orbit.
Okay. So I want to go back to something that I started today's masterclass with, and that is the fact that sustainability, CSR, giving back, all of those had become buzzwords actually a couple of years ago when there was so much focus on companies declaring what they were doing when it comes to CSR and giving back. Have we moved beyond that? Are we actually seeing a lot of innovation like the two entrepreneurs, like Shreyas, like Wilma? Is there a lot more happening now actually on the ground? Probably first to you, Anand, and then I can come to Wilma and Shreyans in this as well.
Yes, I think there has been a lot of movement on this topic, and many small businesses and entrepreneurs are creating sustainability and sort of public good or common good as the focus of the business. In addition to that, what we find in other larger companies where we are doing other things, sustainability and overall corporate responsibility have become very important themes. And what we do in every aspect of what we do, we are thinking about how are we making a contribution to the world and how are we being responsible as citizens and corporate citizens in ensuring that we are moving in the right direction, both in terms of environment, society, governance, and many of these aspects that were not seen as important from the business's point of view in the past. But in the last, I would say 3 to 5 years, we have seen a dramatic shift in the way people are looking at what stakeholders are, how investors look at companies, and how everyone is interested in asking companies as to what is your contribution to the overall greater good under the ESG banner. So I see there's a lot of movement in this topic. We are still very early in the game though.
Shreyans, would you agree? Still very early in the game when it comes to innovation, particularly when it comes to sustainability, environment, etc. for entrepreneurs?
Yes, I do agree, because I think in past few years it was like the profitability and sustainability were different. Now companies are recognizing that social and environmental good is as important as profit, because all the customers are also looking forward to it. So both these are coming together. I think in 2018-19 we had about $3 billion spent in CSR. So these are big numbers coming up, and even if 2020 we had the pandemic, still there were a lot of companies, PSUs, footwear companies, which supported organizations under CSR. So it is becoming more and more mainstream now. And I do agree that it has a long way to go ahead.
Okay. I want for both the Wilma and Shreyans, if you could talk about the fact that now more than ever before, the focus on the environment has come back. For an entrepreneur who's saying that 2021 perhaps is the year when they want to innovate, they want to look at having a social enterprise perhaps that's looking at maybe it's the environment or in some other way giving back. What has been your personal experience about innovating and setting up your organization, and based on that your advice for someone who's logged in or someone who's watching to say this is what worked for me, this is perhaps what you should keep in mind if you're looking at launching your venture? Wilma, maybe to you first.
Yeah, so just to also go to the previous question, because if you're looking at the amount, the scale of the problem that we have currently and what businesses are expected to do to actually come close to what requires to be done, I would say definitely we are a long distance from becoming more sensitive, and actually not just being sensitive, but converting that sensitivity into action. So today, when we do see companies talk about sustainability, what we would like to see them have is their whole business plan, their P&Ls are reporting on also the environment and social impact. So we talked today about the Sustainable Development Goals, and 2030 is a time when we are supposed to achieve these goals, and everybody, whether it's government, whether it's consumers, or whether it is industry, we are supposed to come closer to achieving and actually mitigating climate change, making sure that there is a better distribution of incomes. All of this is part of the goals. Now, as businesses, therefore, smaller businesses, we are able to do that more effectively and also with, I would say, larger sincerity. So I would encourage people listening to us out there when you are creating your business plan, if you are talking about, say, as we talk about waste management, I mean, our business is focused on waste. So therefore, we are constantly looking at how much of resource recovery are we doing? How much of tons per day are we managing? How much of waste is not going to the landfill? And what is the kind of social impact? How many jobs are we creating? How many jobs with minimum wages are we creating? How much of the informal sector have we transitioned into formal sector so that they work in hygienic conditions? So I think as businesses, especially the MSMEs, we've got to teach perhaps or show the way forward as to how things have to match not just intention, but action has to match intention. And I believe that the sector can do this.
And on the second part of the question, what advice would you have for someone who's perhaps looking in the space and saying, 2021, great year for me to be innovating and launching out? Based on your personal experience, what do you want to tell them?
So the 21st century entrepreneur must keep environment and social impact at the heart of what he's doing, because we have too much of issues that we have to deal with. And definitely the environment, I mean, it has to be top priority. So it has to be people and planet at the heart of what we're doing. And as entrepreneurs, I would say best advice is when you're creating your business plan, make sure that you're embedding all the environment and social matrices in your business plan and reporting on it month on month, just as we do top line, bottom line, all the other business related figures that we report in our businesses.
We've got our first audience question coming in, but before that, Shreyans, I want to give you the chance to respond as well.
Sure. I think definitely 2021 is a great year to start social entrepreneurship. We're also happy to share that we ourselves inspired a few companies, like we do recycling of shoes. So a lot of companies got inspired and started recycling jeans, eyewear, and other things, and doing both social and for profit together. And one advice is don't look for a complete plan when you start. The goal is very important. I think the bigger the problem, the better it is. And just get started on it, because it will happen only eventually that you'll figure out what will be the next step and so on. The vision part is very important, the matrix part. And also, I think the more younger people get into this, the better. A lot of people have the misconception that we have to go for only for-profit startups, but a lot of scope in social startups also.
Let's slip into a short break on that note. Back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here to Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. Tonight, we're talking sustainability. Our first question coming to us from Farah Vora. Farah says sustainability is expensive. The headlines may look good, but as a small business, it's expensive. What do I do? Open to all three of you, but Anand, if you want to tackle this one first.
Yes, I agree. There is a sustainability premium that it will cost. Clearly, we have to do a few things where it will cost us more to do this. But I think I would like to answer this question into multiple parts. So on the first set, yes, it is for the larger companies especially. It is something that we can afford to do. It's our responsibility, and we must do what it takes. Because if we don't do it, who else will? So it is very important that we pay that extra sustainability premium for our environment and everyone else, and really focus on this. Now, if I'm a really small company and when I'm looking at survival and how do I manage all of these things and really make that work, what I found is that if you embed your purpose of your business and environment in a way so that they can be blended together, then you will see the benefits of working together with your team and everyone else coming together. So there may be small ways, but you will be able to make a difference to the environment while keeping your profit motives going. So it doesn't have to be one or the other, or you do it at the expense of profits, but you do it along with profits. And then finally, there are these companies whose mission is 100% a social mission. So again, there you have certain benefits as well. And I think we are moving into a world where the buyers of your services will buy them because they know they are socially conscious and they are going to buy at premium and basically pay a little bit more for your products because they are looking for something that is going to feel good for them, that they are making a contribution and an impact to the environment. So yeah, I mean, it's something all of us have to look at, and we have to do this holistically.
Vilma, Shreyas, do you want to take this question on as well?
Yeah, so the fact is that we've got to understand, I mean, obviously, it's not expensive if you understand what our end goals or our end objectives are. I mean, we're talking about better distribution of wealth, and we're talking about environment being the big priority. So if that is our priorities, then obviously budgets will be made accordingly to meet these objectives. So today, if I can give you the example of recycling, so people believe that recycled products are more expensive, but if you look at affordability and if you look at the object of what we will achieve if we actually have this larger market where people will go in for recycled products, then it's not something that that we should be thinking about too much, because ultimately, finally, health and environment is what we all going to be requiring. So the affordability factor must be looked at rather than it being more expensive than, say, the cheaper options that you have.
I think recycling sustainability does add a cost to the product and the business also. But as I said earlier, the gap is slowly bridging, where people have also started valuing it and are slowly starting to pay a premium for it. So as this happens, we'll have more and more conscious buyers, and companies will also, like, the entire graph will shift. And there was a very good campaign which was started by the European Union earlier, where they used to rate companies for carbon credits. I think that should start again, where companies which are bad on carbon credits it should reflect on the balance sheets. It's a very forward step, but I think in next 10 years it can happen.
Okay, our second question coming in to us from Minal Nayak of Nayak Associates. She says, as a continuation of the previous question, yes, I agree, it's good to be sustainable, but I'm a small business. I want to be sustainable, but my investors may not necessarily understand because it's going to have an impact on my ROI. Fair point being raised by Minal. Anyone on today's panel wants to take this question on?
So I want to quote a study that was done in the US, mainly around large companies, in a whole book that is on this topic called Conscious Capitalism. And the author of this book is a gentleman called Raj Sisodia from Babson University. And he has done this study where he looked at publicly listed companies who have a sustainability and a green mission and how they did as compared to the other companies. And he found that the companies that were very conscious about what they were doing and had a declared mission that they are going to be looking at sustainability and green and all of those things actually did 7 times better than the other companies that were not explicit about their sustainability mission. And I must say, as part of Persistent as well, we are starting to see investors in the listed company asking us very specifically how our commitment to environment is being articulated and what have we done to make that happen. And so, the fact is that the investors may be more open to it than you think they are, if they know exactly how it's going to go, and your ability to measure and demonstrate that your extra whatever or the profit impact in the short term is because of these green initiatives. You might be quite surprised at the willingness of these investors to take that chance. And I see this in our market already in the way investors are making investment decisions.
Okay.
I would still say that whilst there is, things like the social stock exchange, while impact investment is, becoming, you're seeing more and more companies come into that, even mainstream VC capital moving into impact. But when it comes to bottom line, when it comes to, say, looking at the valuation of a company vis-a-vis how much has that company done, the growth of that company versus all the other social and environmental matrices, I would say that we still have some distance to go. And I believe that we as entrepreneurs, it's up to us to insist that there is the purpose of our organization and what we are delivering should be recognized by investors. Probably it's still a very niche kind of approach, but I believe we will get there soon.
That's all we could manage to pack into this part 1 of the masterclass. Part 2 is coming up, and for any other information on how you can get in touch with us, what we're doing next, etc., all of that is coming up on your screens. Do head on over to our website. All of the information is there. Tonight is a wrap. Thanks for watching. Have a good night. Is it always a question then of profitability versus sustainability? Is it either or? Can it be both? What would you want to tell someone who has this question on their mind?
I would strongly say it has to be both. Otherwise, then there's no reason for us to say that we are a social enterprise. It just has to be both.
Both these things need to go together, and it is possible. If we have done it, people can improvise and do it even better.
Yeah, and now from our point of view, where we are not really 100%, our mission is not completely sustainability. We are really a profit-making company. You have to make choices on where you need to invest and how you invest. And we definitely have been careful about making sure that are we making the commitments for sustainability and the community.
Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, a digital-first platform bringing you India's biggest experts across topics to share directly with you, the entrepreneur, their wisdom, their advice, as also their suggestions about how you perhaps can shape your life, how you perhaps can do things differently, and also to answer your questions directly. Today, we're talking about sustainability, all things sustainability, even as it is looked at as a buzzword of sorts. What you, the entrepreneur, should keep in mind for 2021 when it comes to social enterprises. Should you be innovating? Where should you innovate? What are the trends? What are the sectors? All of that being answered on today's masterclass. I want to introduce our panelists tonight. Anand Deshpande, founder, chairman and MD Persistent Systems. Wilma Rodriguez, founder and CEO Sahas. Shreyans Bandari, director Heritage Girls School and CEO Green Solo. Sustainability, CSR, giving back, all of those have become buzzwords actually. Is there a lot more happening now actually on the ground?
In the last, I would say 3 to 5 years, we have seen a dramatic shift. Now everyone is interested in asking companies as to what is your contribution to the overall greater good.
In past few years, it was like the profitability and sustainability were different. Now companies are recognizing that social and environmental good is as important as profit, because all the customers are also looking forward to it.
Definitely, we are a long distance from becoming more sensitive, and actually not just being sensitive, but converting that sensitivity into action.
Businesses and companies in the social sector are not perhaps able to offer the kind of, say, exciting roles or the salaries that those in the private sector or so-called for-profit businesses are able to offer. How do you want to challenge that notion? What do you want to tell someone who's logged in today, to watch about the kind of career growth path or the kind of salaries that are being offered by companies today in the social sector?
I think companies in the social sector are able to offer quite similar to what you can do in a private sector, at least at the initial roles. And soon we'll have, I think it's a very fulfilling career to be a social entrepreneur. You get to know that on a daily basis you're doing benefit for the environment, for the society, as well as running a scalable business. Also, a social startup is much more stable because the kind of problems you're addressing, the competition is also fairly lesser. Like in the recycling space of shoes, we are the only startup there. So the competition is also lesser when you're a social entrepreneur, and salaries can be similar. Even scale is huge because the kind of problems you're addressing is probably a problem of a government. Like a government should think how recycling should happen, but you are doing it. So the scope is definitely huge, and so there are a lot of other things. You the kind of effort you put in, it's definitely worth the while.
Okay, Wilma, do you want to address that as well? How do you perhaps, if you can give us examples about how you are hiring, young people, the best, the brightest in the business, the kind of salaries perhaps that are being offered, any notions that you want to tackle through this answer?
Yeah, so, we have a good mix in the team. We have a lot of young people come out of IITs, IIMs. At the same time, of course, we have managers from various different engineering colleges. Somewhere the kind of academic backgrounds versus the requirement of what we need in the job, there seems to be some kind of mismatch. But when they do come into the organization, there is the realization that perhaps this is what they were meant to do. But on the salary front, we do have there is that we have to recognize it, that in a waste management company, with the kind of business model that we have, we definitely cannot pay salaries like even what not just the IT sector, but also typical engineering companies. So we are really strapped for that. And that is why what we want and what we would look for is a better playing field. For instance, who is our customer? Our customer is the large corporate, the large tech park, the large apartment, and all of them is what we can deliver to them is holistic, sound waste management practices. And this is in line with the solid waste rules, which are 20 years old now in India. So that's what we really need. If we are talking sustainability, if we are talking change, then we need a market that will accept us, and we don't need to go very far. We need the industry as a first step to embrace and give us that kind of market opportunities that we're looking for at the right price.
Okay. Anand, the slightly larger question to you, why is it necessary and why is it good perhaps for entrepreneurs to be sustainable, to look at sustainability? Why was it important for you perhaps to do that at a time when it wasn't making headlines, at the time when the government wasn't mandating it? Why did you decide to do it?
We are all part of the society, and it's important that we play a role in the society. So all of us look at doing good for everyone, and this is an important part of what you're looking at. So if you look at Persistent, and I'll give you my example within that context, is that we've been in business for 30 years, and we've had a 1% CSR equivalent from pretty much 1995 onwards. So nearly 25 years we've been doing it. Our board has been very aware of this, and at that time it was not that common to carve out a certain equity for social good, but we have been giving away profits at a certain price for the last 25, 30 years, even before it became a thing as a law that it is today. And I think a lot of this has to do with all of us thinking about the fact that it's our responsibility to the society and to the community that we live in. And if we don't contribute our bit, how do we expect the world to be better? And I think in the last 5 to 7 years, I see a huge change in the way people are thinking about who their stakeholders are. And its stakeholders are not anymore only shareholders who are looking at profit, but the society is a broad part of the stakeholder equation that we are looking at already.
Sure. And this next question is coming to us from Krishna Das of 360 Value Advisors. He says that everyone is convinced about sustainability except for the investors, particularly when you're based outside of the metros. He says he's based in Indore. What would you want to tell him? How do you perhaps then raise funding to run your businesses? Open to three of you. Shreyans, to you first, maybe?
It does reduce some kind of investors for you because they really look at quick scaling up. Like if they can put the money, can it really double, triple in a few years? So it does reduce the investors for you, but you can get strategic partners. Like suppose We have a manufacturing partner, so they help us in manufacturing, giving us office space and other things. You can also look for some government funds, like government of Singapore, government of Netherlands have quite big funds, about $1 million, which you can win and get for your startup as a funding, which will be a good amount, as good as a angel investor can give to you. So these are the two things that you can look at.
Wilma?
Yeah, I would say that you can still work on your business so that it's a stronger business. Look for customers, the right kind of customers, and very often that is not an easy route to take. But if you have a strong business, if you have your purpose also showing in the business on a day-to-day basis, then definitely there are investors that will come to you, and that's the experience that we have had as well. But there needs to be that commitment and that hard work and the delivery on the ground that needs to take place.
Okay, businesses like yours have proved, that it's proven that it's not right. But is it always a question then of profitability versus sustainability? Is it either or? Can it be both? What would you want to tell someone who has this question on their mind?
I would strongly say it has to be both. Otherwise, then there's no reason for us to say that we are a social enterprise. It just has to be both. And it is possible, but there is a lot of work to be done around that. So, today you have waste management businesses who will perhaps go in for, say, managing waste, which has better value because that gives you a better kind of return on investment. And we know that what we need is actually a more holistic kind of business model. So the business models will be more difficult, but at the end of the day, you will realize your purpose, and that is what will then eventually bring the kind of investment that is needed. So strengthen your business, through hard work, and then look for the right investor.
From our point of view, where we are not really 100%, our mission is not completely sustainability. We are really a profit-making company. You have to make choices on where you need to invest and how you invest. And we definitely have been careful about making sure that are we making the commitments for sustainability and the community. I give you an example. Like most recently, we did because of COVID, we committed to donating 25 crores in the last financial year out of our profits for COVID-related activities. And from our context, it's 3 times what we would have done normally in our CSR budget. And the good feeling that we got out of it from the employees and from the stakeholders was completely worth it. So, some of these things are not instead of profit. Yes, it costs us some profit, but when you look at it, what are you comparing this against? You're looking at a long-term sustainability of the business, and having goodwill and the fact that you are a company that cares can go a long way in helping and attracting employees and people, stakeholders and investors as well.
Let's slip into a short break on that note. Back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. Tonight, we're talking sustainability. There's a question that's coming to us from Arshad. He says he's a partner at Barkat Packaging. Plastic is being banned in India, whereas in other developing countries, consumption is increasing per person. What would this panel suggest? Wilma, Shreyans?
See, plastic is something that is something that we are all looking at as an issue which needs to be addressed. Packaging companies, producer companies today all over the world are expected to put into place a take-back system. So therefore, you're supposed to reduce your packaging, you're supposed to reduce your plastic, and whatever you do produce, make sure that from the consumer back to the different parts of the supply chain, and make sure that it gets recycled. I think all over the world today, including in India, the single-use plastic products are being phased out. We really don't need the carry bags. We don't need the the frivolous kind of convenience products. So whilst the volumes continue to be large, that there is more and more policies to restrain the use of plastic. It's there today in our oceans, it's there on our mountains. We are finding it extremely difficult to bring it back and channel it into recycling. And in fact, recycling, whilst, industry has told us that use as much of plastic because it can be recycled. Really, there is very little infrastructure or investment actually gone into recycling. And actually, the figure shows that since 1950, just about 9 to 11% of plastic that has ever been produced has been recycled. So there's a big case for us to reduce. And as packaging companies, I believe that that responsibility will lie with brands and with also the consumers, so that this plastic does not end up as a threat to us.
This next question coming to us from Seema R. She says a lot of small businesses, a lot of enterprises are very neat to copying what's really happening in the West. How do we ensure that businesses and companies in the sustainable space are breaking out of that rut? Are you happy with innovation? Would you call it true innovation that is happening in the sustainable space? Open to all three of you, Anand, but if you think you want to tackle this first.
Yeah, so let me start. So if there's something good in the Western world that we can copy, we should copy. That's one part of it. But beyond that, of course, we need to do things that are relevant to us and definitely make sure that the Indianness of whatever we need to do in our local environment is carried through. And of course, there is always need for more innovation and what can be done. But I'm very optimistic as to what I see in the last few years of the new entrepreneurs that I meet. And many of them, they are motivated to do something different. And they are actually trying out many new things. So while it can always be better, I think we have made good progress. And we already have 2 examples here in Wilma and Shreyans who are doing something like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think in terms of behaviors, unfortunately, we have, gone the Western way, especially when it comes to excessive consumerism and where India does not really have the capacities to manage and match the kind of policies or the kind of implementation. So when it comes to waste in the consumer space, I believe that we could have definitely continued in the path of being more conservative in the way we consume items or products. But in the waste management space, again, when you look at India spearheading resource recovery, circular economy, which is today becoming the buzzword across the world. So I think we could be leaders in that space. I think especially when it comes to decentralized waste management and recycling, we have a good edge, and we should be able to kind of show the way forward for the rest of the world as well.
This next one is coming to us from Kavita Nagraj. She says, Wilma, to your earlier point of, a long way to go. You said there's a long way to go and a lot of things that need to really be done in terms of action that needs to be done. What are the 2 or 3 things that need to be urgently fixed? Would you say the system is broken? I also want to sort of dovetail my own question into that and talk about the role of the government when it comes to encouraging entrepreneurs in the sustainability space. To all 3 of you, starting with you, Wilma, what needs to be fixed and fixed urgently?
I think industry needs to take leadership. I think CEOs need to listen to their CSOs, which is the Chief Sustainability Officers in their organization. The experiences that we have is that today you have sustainability experts, but do they have access to budgets? Would marketing and sales actually go with recommendations made by the Chief Sustainability Officers? I think this is something that is creating the bottleneck, because we are not treating people, planet along with profits. It's still profits versus people and planet. So unless we shift that thinking, I would continue. Sorry, I may sound a little skeptical, but that's the reason why I say that we have a distance to go. Also, when it's looking at CSR budgets, CSR is meant for work which is out of your regular businesses, and also not meant to be there to create a buzz with consumers or the feel-good factor. So I think CSR can be a great game changer in India if again companies, if again industry goes all out there, creates expertise, and builds with the NGO partnerships so that there can be more meaningful execution of CSR projects. So these would be two things that I would like to see happen in the next immediate future.
Sure. Shreyans?
I think government took a very good step in terms of the CSR policy that was launched. A lot of companies have followed up on that. And government could do another thing, which is by reducing the GST rates on sustainable products, because our products are slightly expensive. So if specifically on our products, the rates are lesser, we can be more competitive in the market. And other than that, there's a lot of opportunity in terms of the social space, CSR, and the next step has to be intrinsic. Like government has done a few things. After that, it has to come from within the corporates, the small startups, and the people also to do something for the environment and the society.
Okay, Shreyans, you were talking about GST, and the question, just that came in previously was on what needs to be fixed. So I definitely want to bring in a question on the role of the government. So much more that needs to be done. I do know that, entrepreneurs always talk about more hand-holding on the part of the government, specifically in the sustainability space. One or two things as a wish list. If you could put it forward to the government, what would you want them to do when it comes to sustainability for small businesses to thrive, to flourish? Open to all of you.
I think GST is one part which can make the products more affordable. Other than that, government can also source some handmade vegan products. They have a lot of areas, they do a lot of conferences and other things. So if government can start promoting these vegan and recycled products, and they also launched entrepreneurship awards, which is a very good initiative. And other than that, some policies were also there around startup. There were tax holidays given to investors, no taxation for 5 years, but that was not very broadly applicable. Like we got registered in 2015, so those policies were not applicable to us. So if that can be more broadly applicable, it will be very helpful for all the startups.
I could add that what we would like government to do is to implement its own regulations, because that is what will give us better markets, better businesses. And we see that, for instance, in recycling, you talk about closed loop recycling, and so therefore the policies should reflect how industry should be using waste back in its packaging materials. And that again then will bring in so much more healthier business models for all of us. So the key requirement that we would see, that I would like to put here, is that government should enforce its own regulations, so that then businesses like us, which are closing the loop, which are part of circular economy, can get that trust that is required for the next phase, of sustainable businesses across the world.
Okay, we've run completely out of time in today's masterclass, so I want to take closing comments. If there is, one thing that you want to leave our entrepreneurs with, what do you want to leave entrepreneurs with today? What's your wish for 2021? Anand, maybe I could come to you first.
Yes, so I think it's important that all of us take sustainability seriously and include sustainability front and center in our purpose, mission, and get everyone in the companies encouraged about thinking about sustainability. So my 1-point summary would be that make sustainability part of your core business rather than being something that's outside it.
Shreyans?
There's a lot of opportunity. One need not go too far to look at them. Like there's a lot of opportunity in tech, digitalization, sustainability, wellness, tourism. So especially in sustainability, as the consumers are becoming more aware, as the companies are going towards it, more younger people should come into entrepreneurship. It's definitely the best time to join the social and entrepreneurship bandwagon.
Yeah, I would say we are talking about the future of the planet and well-being of people. So as social entrepreneurs, the big priority would be to continue doing what you're doing with a big focus on purpose and making sure that we stay true to the purpose for which a company has been established.
All right, that's all we could manage to pack into part 2 of this masterclass, but we're going to continue discussing the most topical issues. Anything and everything that matters to you is covered on the show. Tonight is a wrap. Thank you so much for having us.